Happens because your run-up is like that, your load is like that.
mm,
And if you
mm,
notice Ravi Bishnoi has had a few different run-ups over the years. And if you remember last year when he was playing for Lucknow Super Giants, he had a very straightish run-up.
mm,
And he has had to work things out for himself. So Ravi
mm,
Bishnoi is beyond the perpendicular. When you say perpendicular, if this is the
mm,
line, if you notice that
mm,
the price that I have, if that
mm,
is the
mm,
perpendicular line, and this is
mm,
beyond the perpendicular. That's why I say beyond the perpendicular. When we say beyond the perpendicular, it's towards your right ear. So as a leg
mm,
spinner, you have to be slightly away from your ear at the time of
mm,
release to get the ball to spin. Now, if you notice, as soon as I come here, I can't get the ball to do that. Time of load, this is facing the cover fielder. The ball is facing the mid-wicket fielder if you're bowling to a right-hander.
mm,
And
mm,
the year when he played for LSD, which wasn't a great year for him, unfortunately, he's also played a
mm,
bit of cricket, Ranji Trophy cricket for red ball cricket
mm,
for Rajasthan. And in that, he was
mm,
trying to spin the ball, which means he was away from his right ear. And I've
mm,
got video footage of it, which I've seen during the IPL. The year before, when he was doing well, when he came onto the scene and when he did well, he had a bit of
mm,
this semicircular run up, which he had.
mm,
Even during the IPL,
mm,
when he started off really well. He was the purple cap holder after, I think, 2 or 3 games or 4 games or whatever. And then he lost his place in the side, went for a few runs. But what he said was that in trying to bowl with the red ball, he didn't know where his
mm,
lengths were in T20 cricket. And one of the strengths
mm,
of Ravi Bishnoi is that he's quick through the air, gets the ball to slide into a right-hander or slide away from the left-hander. Because he's not a
mm,
tall guy, the ball tends to scoot,
mm,
which means it's not easy to get underneath or hit the ball, unless and until he bowls a rank bad ball or a rank wide ball or absolutely right up the batsman's nose. When that doesn't happen, he's a difficult customer to put away. But in the last game, if you notice, and I didn't watch too much of it, I watched this over and I felt really sad for him because the first instance, the first ball itself, I felt this is a bigger C than what we saw during the IPL. When I say C, bigger semicircle than we saw during the IPL, which means that as a right arm leg spinner, if you're creating that C, you are invariably going to cut that return crease because you have to jump out to not cut the return crease. So he has to figure out a way what worked for him during the IPL and what worked for him when he came in initially. Because that big C, you always got the return crease in your head when you're bowling. And when you're thinking of the return crease, then you're not thinking of the delivery that you want to bowl. So what he has to do is he has to figure out a way to possibly um, get that semicircle small so that his run up is fine. And again, what worked for him was that C because he gets into that position where he can bowl those ones which
mm.
actually come into the right hander. And that is why he has gone back to it or reverted back to it. But this looks a very big C. It's not the small C. I think that's why we are all unique, aren't we? When you think of Abdul Qadir or Lakshman Shivaramakrishnan, Imran Tahir, they all had those angular run-ups. And I'm trying to think of off spinner. Roger Harper had an angular run-up when he bowled. It's a pretty unique action. And again, you have to always remember that all of us are made differently, all of us walk differently. And sometimes, as bowlers, you have to figure out what works for you and what are the improvements that can be made. And for Ravi Bishnoi, I think this is something which worked for him. And that was pretty evident during the IPL as well, because um, you saw that when he first came in, and the year he played for LSD, which I mentioned, where he was left out of the team and and released afterwards, I think he got into that a sort of an angular run up. I wouldn't say it was a C, it was not a semicircle, but a sort of an angular or a straightish run up. And that's where he was trying to spin the ball away from his right ear, but he was not finding his length. So he went for a few runs. This is his comfort factor. He knows where to land the ball
Mm,
when he does this. Every time he goes away, he doesn't know where the ball is going to land. And I think that's been the problem for him. And that's why he's reverted back, as I said. But what was surprising for me was the fact that the C, rather than being a small C, became an uppercase C. I think, Kushan, it's pretty individual. And I've always believed that visualization is a huge key for any spin bowler when you're doing well, when you're not doing well, and just to keep up with the basics. Sometimes just to visualize what you want to do and what you have done before has been an immense tool for me personally. When I was injured, or even when there are down times when you're not playing, I think it's a key sort of an ingredient which a bowler should have. And when it comes to Ravi Bishnoi, I think he should be used to it because he's done this before. It should not be a tough ask, if you think about it, because he was making that small C. It has become big. I don't know for what reason. And from a Sairaj Bhautule point of view, I think the spin coach can impress upon him that this is what you did, show him footage of his old bowling clips, and just try and get him into that space. Will he be played? Can he do it in 2 days? Again, it all boils down to the individual and how comfortable he is. Because at the end of the day, that is what he did before. So it should not be tough technically, but again, it varies from individual to individual. There are parts of it which is perfectly fine. But again, as I said, you have to always understand that there is a certain way of doing things, but there are different ways to skin a cat. And more importantly, your body needs to find it comfortable. Biomechanic experts can look at it differently. Bumrah won't be Bumrah. If a biomechanics expert had sat down and said that this is what you need to do, then Bumrah wouldn't have been Bumrah. Malinga wouldn't have been Malinga. So we have our individual quirks, we have our individual strengths, we have our body which works differently. And so it's very important to understand that, yes, can something be done differently? Of course, yes. There are so many areas of improvement because when he does that, when he gets into that position, the reason why he's creating it is so that he can get into that position where he can keep sliding that ball in. The odd ball holds up when he's actually making his effort to keep the the ear and his bowling arm slightly away. Of course, there are places to improve. There are things which can be done to minimize and get him into a better bowling position when he hits the crease. Of course, yes. But you also have to understand that there are certain comfort factors. He is whatever age he is right now. He's over 20, 24, whatever, however old. To go back to the drawing board is never easy. It takes quite a few seasons out of you. Are you comfortable doing it? I've seen very few bowlers who can actually do it. You think of Sunil Narayan. He did something for such a long time. And when he had to remodel his action, it took him a long time to become the Sunil Narayan that he is. Think of the Sunil Narayan who was going sub five in the death overs to the Sunil Narayan who's very different now in terms of having taken time to remodel his action, find his groove. Never easy. So you have to think of the bowler as well. But again, coming back to your question, can something be done? Can he always better? Of course, there is scope for improvement for everyone. Again, Rashid's action is very different. He's much straighter in his run up, and he actually bowls over his sort of the the rib cage or the sides of his action is pretty unique. Ravi Bishnoi can definitely do it. I think that's one of the reasons why he moved back or did what he did last season when he played for LSG and for Rajasthan. That was his main reason for him to actually try and spin the ball because that's what you need in red ball cricket. You can't be just bowling googlies and you become a one trick pony. Of course, he can do it. It's just that it'll require a lot of work and a better understanding of what he wants to do, where he wants to be. Of course.